for putting up with me. Thank you for giving me the freedom to fail and for helping me see my worth as a leader on campus. I appreciate you a lot. And if you have a job for me next year, probably. Dr. Pastor Uncle Russell, you are a true inspiration to me, sir. 3 overseas mission trips, 2 departmental trips, 3 classes, and 4 years and 1 job later. You have impacted my life more than you can imagine. Thank you. I was in the 9th grade when it happened. My girlfriend and I slipped into the closet in the classroom to make out. Mistake number 1. Making out with my girlfriend in the closet of the classroom. Mistake number 2. Making out with my girlfriend in the closet of the classroom. We'd barely done anything when someone from the outside opened the door. Who knew that the wrinkly face of an English teacher can bring so much stress? Well, to make the long story short, she told the principal that she'd seen the senior prefect of the student body kissing a girl, but she didn't see me. Nothing happened. And I was demoted to a lower rank in office. The Southeast Asian culture in which I grew up perceived leadership as something that solely brings value to the one who has the title, irrespective of his or her influence. According to them, I became a leader when I got a title, and leadership was synonymous with guarding a reputation. Leadership was about me. If my reputation was tarnished even the slightest bit, my title was removed and I was no longer a leader. And that's what happened when I got caught in the classroom. For the better part of my life before coming to Andrews, I perceived leadership to be about me. It was about a title, nothing more, nothing less. Or so I thought. It was a late night during my sophomore year at Andrews. It was well past my bedtime when I finally went to sleep, and when I was just about to sleep, I hear a knock on the door. Man, was I ticked off. Did someone really lock themselves out of the room at this ungodly hour? I opened the door to find a fellow resident who wanted to talk about the pressures of, to his resident advisor of that hall, which was me. Well, to make the long story short again, I ended up doing nothing but listen to him for more than an hour. It dawned on me later that leadership wasn't just about a title. It very well could be about other people. Coincidentally, the theme for our residence hall team for that year was to lead, we must serve. It was here at Andrews I started thinking more intentionally about not only serving others, but intentionally empowering others to become leaders. And as the religious vice president of the student body, one of my main responsibilities has been to inspire others to lead their own ministries and initiatives. It was here at Andrews that I started to realize that leadership is much more than a title. That it's about intentional influence, as Pastor Dave puts it. It's about others. It was here at Andrews I made one of the best decisions of my life. Choosing to spend a year as a student missionary. Being a Bible teacher at our Adventist secondary school in Lebanon for grades 1 through 12 without any curriculum nor training was one of the hardest yet the most rewarding times of my life. Stretching me beyond the limits that I placed for myself was probably the best thing that happened to me out there. Now, I had the wonderful opportunity to go back to Lebanon during spring break this year and see my students after more than 2 years, a privilege that only a few student missionaries get to experience. My initial change project was to create a resource manual for incoming Bible teachers who are student missionaries at that school so that they don't have to start from scratch every single year. But influenced by the conversations with the Bible teachers who are currently at the school and the administrators of the Union of the Seventh-day Adventist Church under which Lebanon is a part of, I realized the need for a campus chaplain at the secondary school that I worked at. The day before I flew back to the States, I was able to create a detailed job description for a campus chaplain with the assistance of the principal and the Bible teachers. Upon my graduation in a few weeks, The principal, Mr. Jimmy Shafani, has requested that I consider working for him next year as the first campus chaplain the school has ever seen since 1956. I'll call her Sally. When Sally found out that I was coming to Lebanon, she was ecstatic. When we first met 2 years ago, Sally had been invited to church by a friend who happened to be one of my students in Sabbath school. Now you see, Sally considered herself an agnostic. During our brief interaction, we had a conversation about God and His love, which left her wanting to know more and more. It was really nice to see her during spring break and to catch up on each other's lives. Sally decided to spend the Sabbath evening with us. Towards the end of the day, I found myself with Sally on top of my students, talking about everything and anything. Sally then shifted gears when she asked me a rather probing question about God and His intentions for our lives. The spiritual conversation that began with that question ended up in a short presentation about the gospel. Sally and the others were spellbound. I mean, it was the first time that they were hearing the gospel message in its rawest form. Cross, Jesus, love, works, faith. Just the rawest form. And it just left their foundations shaking. Just before I prayed with them, I was impressed to make an appeal for a confession of faith in Jesus as their personal Savior. And for the first time in their lives, Sally and my students made the best decisions that helped things out.
Amen.
Amen.
Just last Friday, someone asked me, Kevin, what are you most passionate about in life? You know, the first thing that came to my mind was Sally and her friends giving their lives to Jesus. You see, there's nothing that excites me more than seeing someone give their life to Jesus. And that has significantly shaped how I view leadership as it relates to my future. Leadership has been about me, and it has been about others. But as I see the day approaching, I realize more and more that my leadership needs to be about Him and informed by Him. Jesus will ever be my inspiration for spiritual servant leadership. Wherever He leads me from this point on, whether it be the seminary to seek more training in spiritual leadership, or to Lebanon, where I can get to minister to Sally and her friends as their campus chaplain, I pray that I seek to continually lift Him, Jesus, up, to constantly lead one more person to Jesus. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Right here. As I do so, I'm going to invite Carissa to just come up and set up right here at the lectern. If you have a question, we probably have time for maybe one question for Kevin. What stands out? Anybody have one that you'd like to ask? I know there are some people here specifically to hear you share, and maybe they have a probing, English question, topic question, or whatever. I don't know. But maybe they have a question for Kevin. I will ask. Wait, I can see. Okay, I'll ask this one. One of the things that you described to me in your experience there in Lebanon, because you went with an agenda, right? And what was it that caused you really to shift your thinking and shift tracks on what it was you decided to do? How can you explain a little bit more how that happened?
Yeah, like I mentioned, my initial change project was to actually create a resource manual. Basically a manual with curriculum material, resources, so that every single year when the new student missionary comes to take up a position, he or she can start from scratch. But the first thing that I did when I had that very important conversation with the current Bible teachers who were there, I basically explained to them, okay, look guys, we'll have this leadership class, I'm going to do all these different things. But you know what? I want to know from you guys, what's your need on campus right now? So that question really was that tipping point, and then they started to say, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this, and then finally, the current Bible teacher basically said, honestly, all these things are very important, but the biggest need that we have is we need to have a bridge between the school and the church. Because even if we convert 50 people in the school, we don't have a place for them to, or context for them to actually grow in their spiritual development. So that's exactly what happened.
Very good. Well, I really appreciate it. And you didn't get as in-depth version of it as I have heard, but Kevin's ability to employ just the right questions changed everything. And leading through the art of asking the right questions is a pretty impressive story to listen to. And maybe you'll get a chance to visit Kevin at his presentation table. Carissa is next.